Hello, and welcome to yet another episode of Unbuttoned the podcast. How are you all feeling?
Good day and great things.
Yeah, are we ready to talk about a new topic today?
Yes.
I think I'm very ready to unbutton.
Okay, then here we go. I have the topic for this episode, and it is first sex. Anybody?
Sexy sex.
Anybody feeling it?
Okay, so wait, what's the definition of this? Is it first experience with another person naked in a room and doing all kinds of naughty things or pleasurable things? Or is it penetrative sex? What are we talking about here?
My mind straight away went to the penetrative sex because that's like going all the way. But I mean,
I want to make sure that we recognize, though, Pixie Mojo, that not everyone has penetrative sex.
Yeah.
So how could that be the qualifying criterion?
I agree.
So perhaps we could say it's, people do say you're sexually active. That could mean that you're doing all kinds of things leading up to sex even. And what is that leading up to sex? What do I mean by that? I guess is getting naked and getting jiggy with the genitals. How about that?
Let's go with that. I like that definition.
Jiggy with the genitals.
I like it.
Okay, so my first experience with this was, somewhere around when I was 28, 29 years old with the first individual I dated. I was very clear that I wasn't very sexually experienced and that I needed to make sure that we were going slow. And that was great. We did go slow. So the first time we decided to do anything, obviously you started with kissing and, all of that fun stuff in the living room. And then we went to the bedroom. And obviously I was so nervous because I had never been naked in front of anyone before. Especially someone who I was attracted to. So I'd never had that experience. So we kind of took off our clothes and all of that. And I don't even remember seeing this guy's body.
What?
Because I was so nervous. So I have no memory of what his body looked like.
Or his genitals.
Yeah, or his genitals. No memory. I don't even think I must have just glanced at his penis and then just looked somewhere else.
Do you remember his face?
I do. Yes, unfortunately, I do remember his face.
Put that face on a dick.
Yeah. We were kissing and it was at one point I think we were both on the bed. My first sexual sort of experience isn't a very empowering story for me. There was a lot of moments of just, what is this? I really don't like it. So a couple of things happened. First, I don't like shaving my pubic area at all.
Yeah, because that causes itchy and scratchy to show up.
Yeah, and all of that stuff. And I really don't want to get it waxed, none of that. It's my favorite area. It causes a lot of pain when you do any of this shit, so I don't want to do it. So I trim it a little bit. And I think he had only been with women who didn't have any hair down there. So his response was you should really groom down there. And I was like, what? So automatically that comment just made me feel okay, this person doesn't really like my body the way it is. So already I wasn't feeling too good. But still, because it was my first experience, I just wanted to get it over with and give it an opportunity. So I was excited in myself anyway. So we were going through this. And then I guess I never knew at that point in time what happens to a body when you're really attracted to someone. When you're kissing, how does your body move? What are the moves you do? Do the rhythms of both people sort of align and kind of get together at some point? Is it the same rhythm? And I didn't know any of that. And I think I was rather stiff because then the individual at some point said, you're stiff as a log. And I was like, oh, okay, I'm supposed to be moving? I don't know what this means. So it wasn't it. After that comment, I don't think I wanted to keep going anymore. So I just was hey, this is not working. Let's stop this. And we did. I think he was also quite aroused by that point of time. So he asked me to give him a hand job. And I said no.
Wow. Okay.
So because I was I don't know what a hand job is. But B, I'm really not in the mood to do anything right now. I just need to get out of this space and, leave this space at the moment. So that was my first sort of experience. It wasn't all that great. After that experience, it took me another maybe year to actually be comfortable with someone else in in that private space, but that first time was not what I had anticipated at all.
Were there parts of this first experience that you enjoyed?
Yeah,
You
like
said.
like with the skins touching, that
Okay.
that part I liked. I liked the lead up to it. So the kissing, like when we were kissing in the living room, I climbed on top of him on the couch. That's probably one of my favorite things to do. And so all of that, the lead up to it was really nice. But once we got naked and we're in the bedroom, there it was just, again, a lot of discomfort. A lot of, okay, what am I supposed to do? Lots of thoughts around that. And the fact that I also didn't feel like this individual desired me and my body the way it was. I think that really, my brain just switched off after a certain point.
Did this human know it was your first time?
Yeah, they did.
What? Jackass behavior.
I know.
mean, let's be real about this. I'm not saying he or she was a jackass, but the behavior certainly qualifies.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, so he
Yeah.
was aware that this is your first time, could see that you're enjoying certain activities, did not prolong that. Second strike, what did he say? Something about, no, before stiff. Something else.
My pubes that I should be
Oh
grooming.
my god, and I think he said you should think about it. Like one of those non-suggestion, like suggestions.
Yeah.
Just that is just aggravating. And then finally he said you're stiff. So it's like you didn't do anything about it. You didn't play a part in like getting this person comfortable knowing that it was their first time. And then you lay it
Yeah.
down to them. Good lord. And then and finally coup de grace is like, oh my god, give me a hand job. What a fucking dick.
So entitled.
One chamant, dude.
Oh.
Yeah, it definitely wasn't the greatest. And I think a lot of my assumptions about how men behave in the bedroom actually came from that example. I'm thankful that I had a lot of good friends around me who told me, no, that's not what they like. That's just one experience. This isn't all. So you know, don't shut off and, you know, keep meeting people and keep trying to see what different people are like in the bedroom.
Yeah. I can go next. This is going to be a continuation of one of the stories from the episode on the first dates. Remember if we spoke about, I went on this date and then my bike got towed and all of that. So the same day, we ended up going back to his place and we were on his sofa chatting about this and that. I think mentally, I knew this had to lead to something. That day. So I think I was prepared for it and I clearly recall like I had an agenda at the end of the date, right? So, and I think the other person knew but was playing it too cool. So we were talking about this and that. He had this little one BHK studio apartment which was really pretty. We were talking about all the pictures and all of that, and finally, I was like trying to get him in the mood and, you know, because this was also one of my first experiences, I was also being subtle. I didn't want to like go out all the way. So I didn't even know what to expect, right? So I was like, as we were talking, there was a little bit of touching the body and touching the hair and all of that. I'm sure the person picked those hints, but there was picked up on those hints, but there was a little bit of like playing it too cool and all of that. But finally, I know I actively stopped, like, I didn't know where this was going, so I stopped pursuing and I was like, let's talk and all of that. It was then the person said, let's go into the room. I clearly remember this incident because for me, it's so memorable for me because it was my first penetrative sex, right? So, and I clearly recall that particular day. It kind of stands out for whatever reasons for me, just being through that experience and feeling what it's like, all of that, the newness of it, right? So I remember we went into his room and then we kind of got naked and I was pretty nervous. I didn't know what to expect. And I think by this time I figured out I'm more of a bottom. You know, like I was ready to receive the action. So it was like I did not know what that feeling would be like, all of that. And then finally I think it happened and it was quite painful, as you can imagine. Yeah, and I think that person had a pretty big one, so it was all the more tougher. But I went through with it because I knew I wanted to experience this. So it was also a little bit of me trying to, you know, see this as an outsider, just like seeing what's happening. It was pretty sexy. I mean, the person was nice. I mean, also because this was my first time, the person was guiding me what to do and all of that. I do recall him being pretty patient with seeing this through and ensuring that I was
giving
okay.
you the time to
Yeah.
get comfortable with every stage.
Yeah. After that, I mean, I pretty much clearly remember what that felt like, and it was also just seeing this person nude because I'd seen just his face, and he was a very good looking person. So to really see him in all his beauty
And glory.
and glory, it was quite something. And I think, like, though it was a date, I was into him, right? So, and there was a little bit of oh, this is a big moment in my life. Like in my mind, I was like, oh, this is big, whatever. So I remember writing back and really thinking, oh my god, that happened today. And yeah, so that was my first experience.
How did the tryst or whatever, the meet, come to a close?
No, I think in our minds we were pretty clear that this was a one night or a hookup kind of a thing. So I think we continued being like chatting with each other and being in touch. But I mean, none of us was serious. Post that also, I don't think I was too into that person and all of that.
But what I mean, Mojo, is the care right after. Right
Oh.
after the action,
Huh.
what does it, when this person, I mean, in comparison, like in contrast, I should say, to Pixie's story, this person was showing care, that it was your first time. So what sort of was steps that this person took as part of care right after, since you were in pain?
Yeah.
It was pain plus pleasure. How did they do that?
Yeah, I mean, I don't recall there being a lot of like care. I mean, why in the act? I mean, of course, the person was pretty careful and all of that. But once it was over, there was no lot of talking about it or anything. I think I was pretty much left to my own devices to kind of deal with it, right? So I do recall the days after. I mean, it was still very painful for me, and I wasn't sure whether this was okay, this was something different, all of that. I mean, I just remember having a lot of questions later, like, oh my god, this is really painful. Like, even just walking becomes a little, like, especially if it's your first time, it can get a little painful. And walking was like, oh my god, should I have done that kind of a thing? And for me, this was also in my mind the new normal. Like, if I was going to get into this play field and be more active, then is this what it's going to feel like? All of those questions in my mind.
Did you use any like lubricant or anything to support you in that process the first time? Like what did you guys do?
Yeah, so the person definitely had a condom on and did use a lubricant, but I wasn't able to see all of that. I mean, because it was happening and I was also just dealing with my own thing, but the person did use a lube to get in. Yeah.
Yeah, that always helps.
Yeah.
But it's still painful.
It is.
I was going to say, I think that was one of the things for so many years. I would call myself, I looked it up so that I knew what the word was, coitophobic. Coitophobic. So coitophobia is fear of sex. But I guess that really means something else. Like I don't know what else it could mean psychologically, but for me it was that fear, and really it would have been fear of pain. So that thought of that penetration, because I mean nothing else has gone up there, and this is maybe just before I even started wearing tampons or anything really going up there. I mean, I'm sure I'll enjoy sex because I certainly do enjoy kissing and all of those lead up stuff that Pixie talked about, and I had experienced all of that. But sex, penetrative sex itself, I was like, oh, if I could just already be done with it so that I know what it's like.
Wow.
And so in the first time, I mean, there was that little, I want to use the word stiffness, but because it came from a place of like, just, how you steel yourself against pain that is coming. So it was kind of like that. So Mojo, when you were telling your story to us, I was thinking about that. Like, does it ease after a while? Because I think with the vagina, it does sort of then start, it has its own natural lubricants that may show up, not necessarily every time, but it could, and then it eases out, and then it sort of expands and contracts and says, oh, I guess this is normal. And so it sort of becomes okay. The pain goes or whatever. But that first time, and also subsequently for me, if it's been some time before I've had, done it again, somehow the muscles are anew, like, they sort of hit refresh. And the first go needs to be a little more gentle or whatever before you get into the motions of things. So I had put it off for a while in my life as well. So penetrative sex happened much later in my life. But getting jiggy with the genitals, as we're calling it, had happened before the first penetrative sex, for sure. So in terms of that, I just, those are two different kind of tracks. One was, and both of them were people. Well, actually, one was with somebody that I was sort of dating, and the other was more transient beings in some spot on the planet, and feeling sexy and trying to, make good on that, the fact that we're transient human beings. Yeah, I decided, you know what, I'm feeling it. Let's do it. I mean, I've done everything else. Let's see what the whole shebang is in this case, penetrative sex. So I have to say that this person wasn't very experienced, I think. And I tell you why I think that. It's because of the way the foreplay happened. Some of the actions done in it, how, I don't know, I'm genuinely not, I think I've encountered these people in more frequency, which is why I feel like there's so many. So this is not a real generalization, but some of the Indian men that I have been with, they just get overexcited with boobs. They don't know what to do with them. So they've seen these videos, and I've seen Indian porn. It's so clear as daylight that they're picking up the cues from porn. And in that, the lady is getting her boobs jiggled around, like they don't know what to do with it. They're going crazy, just like hands all over. So it's not a caress. It's not sort of for the woman. It's for you. I mean, this body is there for you to just play around with. And so there's a lot of crushing of the boobs and all that. I mean, it's like, what? That's not the pain I was talking about. And so you could tell that this person wasn't very into that, but clearly had some. I mean, kissing clearly was experienced. And so as a result, the first penetrative sex, at least, happened to be with this person was, let's just say lacking in most sense of the word. I was very unimpressed and underwhelmed. And I was like, iske liye, matlab, for this. We've been putting it off. And I'm glad I did actually just get it out of the way, because honestly, I don't have a romantic notion of it. But just because it was like, well, I'm going to have to remember this person. Just like Mojo, for you, that was such a momentous occasion. You are always going to remember that person. You're always going to remember the situation surrounding that. So this was similar, but now, yeah, I guess it's nothing to write home about, let's just say. But after that first bit of pain, and then we just kept going. I have to say this person was not good at getting you going. Like, I think you have to be good at getting the body going. Whatever hole you're entering has to get warmed up and zhuzhed up and ready for reception. And this person didn't know how to do that. And later I realized that is something we need to do more of.
Did they know that it was your first time?
No. Maybe not. It was, I don't know, was it? I didn't think it was a relevant point. Because at that point, I didn't see myself as not sexually active. You see, like that was an incidental part. Just like I said, not everyone has penetrative sex. So that wasn't like, oh my goodness. Because I have, been with partners who've used fingers or things like that. Right? So I suppose that's penetrative sex. I don't know what I'm saying. What I mean is the penis. Yeah. Penile penetration.
Yeah.
How did you feel after it was all over?
I was, in a way, kind of like Mojo. You're like, oh, that just happened. Like, it's done. I am done. So it's a lot of excitement about just getting on with my life. Like
wanting to do more of it, or just like...
Yeah, absolutely. So what I mean by that is, whereas I don't have an emotional or romantic notion of, sex, first time, yevo. It was that I was going to remember the first person forever. So it better be somebody that is worth remembering. So I was putting some value onto it, which I ought not to have, honestly. Simply, it's just the most incidental activity you can get up to, and it's not that momentous in that sense. But it's what you make of it. It's like a dance, right? Sometimes you get a dance partner, let's say in salsa, and you sort of hit a rhythm, and it's so joyful, and you feel so satisfied when a song is done and you finish dancing with them. And sometimes it's just like constantly on each other's toes and constantly not getting to a rhythm that fits you both. It's one of those. And this ended up being the latter. My first.
Yeah.
I mean, if I'm calling that my first. Yeah. For the point of this discussion, let's just call that the first.
Yeah, and I think this idea of just getting it over with, I know that it definitely consumed my thoughts a lot after this first experience that I had. And I remember talking to a lot of people about virginity and what their views were. And I spoke to a spectrum of people because I wanted to see how people reacted to this. So to some of my girlfriends, and we were speaking about this, and one of them was like, okay, come on, Pixie, get it over with. Just get it done with. Like, you just need to find some person, have sex, just get it done with. The next question I always asked was, okay, well, should you tell them that this is your first time? And here there was a mix of views, like, no, yes. Some of my friends who are men were like, yeah, you should tell the person because, maybe they would do things differently if they knew that it was your first time. And so yeah, I was really like curious about the range of thoughts that people had. For me, it became very clear that I just wanted to get it done. But I wanted to do it with someone who knew this because then I thought that maybe it would change the way they did things that first night that we were together. And I really wanted someone who would think about me in this process and really focus on my needs. And lo and behold, I was having a conversation with someone on OkCupid, and this person was in Delhi. And I happened to be in Delhi for some work. And before going to Delhi, I did say that, hey, I've never met this person before in my life. Just spoken to him, chatted with him on OkCupid. I think we had one phone call where we spoke to each other on the phone. Did we do a Skype? No, I think we did do a video Skype session, a short video Skype session. And by that time, we'd also done some sexting and stuff like that. So he was like, do you want to meet when you're in Delhi? Why don't you stay the weekend? And I was like, I don't know whether I should do this or not. But by that time, I think I was just overcome with this sense of, I'm going to do different things that, I'm going to experience. So I said yes, and I ended up booking a random hotel in Delhi. And I remember I was quite nervous because I was like, I have no idea who this guy is, what will happen in this hotel room. So I came prepared with all kinds of like security devices that I could use.
Good girl.
And I had told two of my friends in Delhi that this was happening. So in case anything happened, and the hotel I think I chose was also close to one of their houses. So that, if anything happened, I would have support. But, before we actually met, this individual, he was in his late 40s, I think. Had 2 children, divorced man, and, he just really wanted to have a nice night. So he really led a lot of the discussion around this, which I actually was quite appreciative about, because he said things like, okay, how would we know that we would both want to sleep with each other? How do you know that? And so we had a conversation about that when we meet, we'll see what it's like. And then we would ask, like, do you want to go on further or not? And so we kind of decided how we would do this. So arrived Delhi in this random hotel room, and this individual comes to meet me, and it's a very small hotel room. He's sitting on the couch, and I'm sitting at the edge of the bed, and
It's so small, but it has space for a couch.
Yeah, like a little, like right next to the bed, though, at the foot of the bed.
Yeah.
So we're having this conversation, and we're speaking just general stuff. It was just really funny. Like, I don't know whether I was sexually attracted to him per se.
But you mean physically attracted?
Yeah, physically, like whether I was actually attracted to this individual, but there was a kindness that I was attracted to.
Yeah.
And so I was like, yeah, all right, let's do this. And we kind of like kissed, and then we took a shower together. My first time taking a shower with someone, and it was so hot. Like, I was totally turned on by the fact that we were taking a shower. Yeah, and then we kissed, and then, we had sex. And, we didn't use any lubrication, nothing. He just entered me, and it happened. And I was like, that's it?
That's it.
Like, this is done?
So underwhelming.
Yeah. Again, the lead up to it was great, right?
Yeah.
Like, but the act in and of itself, I was like, oh, this is it. This is done. All right. It was painful. My memory of it was that it was quite painful, but this individual was just so kind throughout. Like, he kept saying things like, you have this amazing body. I love this part of your body, and, I love your boobs and all of that. And I was just like, oh, I've never heard anyone say these things to me before.
Yeah.
So it just all of a sudden felt like, I wasn't just focused on the act, but I was also like, my body was feeling all of these other sensations of desire and all of that. So it was amazing. I knew that I would love to have sex again in this manner. But more than anything, I was so happy that I had done it and I had gotten over with it and that there was no emotions involved. It felt so great not to have, like, that I wasn't in a relationship with this man or anything like that, that this was just it. This bedroom in this Delhi hotel is all that matters, and that's it. So yeah, it was very empowering for me. I felt this amazing sense of, yeah, girl, you did it. Like,
yeah.
And you took the risk of, like, doing it in a place where you don't even know anyone. And
it demystifies it, right? Because it's built up to such a frenzy and crazed sort of pedestal, that it's put on. And then you're just like, what? It's like a movie being talked up. And then you watch it and you're like, what? And so even if it was going to be good, you'd just be underwhelmed, is what I was thinking maybe finally. I kind of like that the pain sort of dissipates over time as you're doing it or whatever. I like that, just as a factual, like a scientific fact. Like, oh, okay, then I don't need to feel that pain anymore. That's what that first finally helped me do. Mm-hmm. But otherwise, I have to say that it's not like I'm in love with it, because I don't think most women get reach orgasm through penetration because of the way that the anatomy is, where the clitoris and the clitoral sort of organ is around the vagina. So it's not like the penetrative act really gets to you and gets you going. So I have to say that I to date remained underwhelmed by and large with the activity. Mojo, your thoughts on your continuing adventures since that first time?
Yeah, I think when you were talking about just how the other person makes you feel during the act, I mean, that's so important, because later I remember meeting someone who was kind, and I remember that as a good experience, because this person was saying all the right things and making me feel loved in a lot of other ways while doing it. So especially, I don't know if I'm generalizing, but also with gay people, especially because the organ is, like you said, not self-lubricating in a way. If it happens, all of that, I think it's still painful, and it also kind of depends on the other person's penis, how big it is or small, because I don't think that part of our body is naturally meant for to be used that way. So yeah, I think it kind of depends. I mean, that's where all the other factors of how the other person is making you feel, how are they treating you, all of that really, for you to even go through this pain and enjoy it, right?
I want to say not naturally, but rather typically or conventionally. Right? Because what is natural, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's natural for some.
Absolutely. And so that was a good experience where I felt, oh my God, that just like happened, and it was okay. I could bear the pain for whatever reasons because I was feeling good about it. But again, I think moving on from the penetrative sex kind of an aspect, right? I think I've had a bunch of other experiences where I wanted to try a couple of different things, because I knew what penetrative sex was and I could go with it sometimes, but it was not going to be like very frequent for me, because it was an occasional, because that's when I think in my mind I kind of decided that I know how I want this to feel. So if I'm invested in this person, or if I'm pretty sure if this person would be nice to me, or, kind of be sensitive and kind during the act, it's only then that I kind of am ready to go to that step of it. Otherwise, to that part of sex, right? So otherwise, I'm kind of happy trying out different things. I also remember like this one instance where I met this person, and the person was trying out different things, though, like this person was really into foot. So like the licking of the foot and all of that. And that was like a new experience, and it sort of blew my mind. It was just as orgasmic, if you will, as penetrative sex, because it was the newness of it, and this person was so into it. And I would also classify that as like,
and that's funny you say that, Mojo.
Yeah,
because the person I was with also was into it and would like bite. Like just got up in a frenzy and just bit my foot, and I thought that was the oddest thing. It really took me out of the experience versus what you went through.
Yeah, biting, that's interesting, because this person was more like sucking, and I think the feeling of warm tongue on the foot was like another level, right? I mean, I really enjoyed it.
Definitely.
Feet.
You gotta try it, Pixie.
I will.
So what I think is important in what you just said, Mojo, is that it is you figure out your boundaries, you figure out what you enjoy, and finally at the end of the day, to me, that's what it is. It's just one of the human activities we get up to.
Yeah.
Demystified. It's like going for a run or, going out to eat your favorite meal. Just the action, the human body doing something. And it's one of those. You can find out what you like, you enjoy, engage at the frequency you want. But at the same time, so it's sort of thinking of it as just another healthy human action.
Yeah.
Yeah. It really is just one human activity.
Yeah.
And here's to sex, guys.
Yeah.
More sex.
Guys, did you know that there are certain myths around the hymen that a lot of people who've not had sex yet or have not had really great sex education or healthy chats about it, they sort of belabor under these certain myths. So the hymen is basically, just as we all know and ought to know, is just a membrane. So it's really like thinking about it as, I often used to think about it as a sort of cobweb that you can sort of walk through and maybe like just go through. So it is sort of something that you can move through. And not everyone has the same kind of hymen. It's just like any other part of the body. We have different noses, different shapes of things. The hymen's also different. So some folks have like a very thick membrane. Some folks have a very porous and very thin membrane. And so the idea of breaking through it as a concept, like as the fundamental definition of losing your virginity, is complete and utter bogus. And not many people know that. So they expect that is what needs to happen. In fact, some people lose it through doing a lot of physical, strenuous activity as well. So there are many myths about, what would happen when it quote unquote breaks. Is that sometimes for some people it does break. Like it's a thicker set of, cobwebs. So you're breaking through it. Sometimes it's just that there are already natural holes in it and you can sort of perforate right through and some part of it is intact. So really thinking about what the definition of virginity is something that everyone should do before they, go forth in their sexual journeys and not be too worried about it, because genuinely it's just another part of the body that has no real other purpose, turns out.
Our bodies are so different, man. Read up, learn more, which leads into, did you know that in India every month approximately Google gets 8,000 searches on first night tips? So what to do on first night, which really technically means Suhagrat nights. So really there is a lot of questions. There are a lot of questions that people have about what to do, what's sex like, tips about how to manage that first night, especially I think if you don't really know your partner really well on that first night. But number one tip is just spend time getting to know each other before you actually do anything, and just be intimate, to do other things that allow for intimacy. On this website that I read, it also said just eye contact, simple as that, builds intimacy, getting ready for the next many, many months that you have to explore sex in each other's bodies. But yeah, 8,000 searches. But thank God for Google, though. Like, I mean, how would you learn about this otherwise? Who do you talk to? And so, yeah, hey, Google's made our lives easier in many ways.
But the thing about Suhagrat, just really quickly on that, it's Hindi, right? For the night after you've just got married. The night of your marriage, I guess. And so for many people, I guess the median experience is that it's arranged marriage. And that's hence the questions, because it is some random person. And the precise thing is that that's precisely the point, that they can't make eye contact. So that's a tip that's going to be hard to follow, though.
On that note, since we're talking about first time, we know for some people it can be hard. And what can make the whole process easy is a good lubricant. So did you know it's perfectly safe to supplement your own lubrication with saliva, right? Good old saliva, who knew?
I mean, what do you mean supplement the lubrication? Isn't that the only lubricant?
There are natural lubricants is what I think this article that I read.
Oh.
I mean, the body has natural lubricants, but like we all need a little extra help. So
yes, of course. What the body is naturally producing.
Absolutely, yeah. But here's the thing, right? In cases where the person has some sort of like mouth infection or sore throat, it is not a good idea to use saliva. You're really exposing your sensitive parts to a lot of bacteria. So that's not okay. There's a lot of like really good lubricants available. There are water-based lubricants, oil-based lubricants, and silicone-based lubricants. So do your research, see what works for you best, and then go and have some great sex.
Yeah, I vouch for water-based lubricants. I've used the oil-based one. I prefer the water-based one just because how it feels down there. So yeah, go ahead, do your research, find out what works for you and your buddies.
Let's slip right into a super sexy journey.
Yup.